I'll try to give some of the issues in educational assessment or automating the educational assessment, different types of assessment, etc. So let me share my presentation. Can you see my screen?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
So today I'm going to talk on easy and effective assessments in education 4.0. And special focus is on tools for classroom assessment techniques. In short, it is called as CATs. So every session has some objectives, and at the end of this session, all the participants will be able to understand the 5 principles of assessment and with respect to education 4.0. Identify the core concepts in assessment domain and the semantic relationship between them, and select appropriate classroom assessment technique aligned with the purpose of assessment, and implement various CATs in an online classroom, online as well as offline, I can say. Understand learning analytics component in an automated assessment system. So these are the objectives. I don't know how much justice I will be able to do in each of the topics, but let me try. So we all of us know as teachers that assessment is a crucial component in the educational process. Without assessment, there is no educational process, you can say. So the foremost and the primary requirement is you should have a very good assessment process included in your curriculum itself. So if this assessment is done properly, it drives improvement. That means there will be a lot of improvement in the students' learning and the teachers' delivery also. Shapes learner behavior and provides accountability to employers and others. So if we give good assessments, and if we know the outcome of each of the students of that assessment, we can tell our employers who takes our students that this is the skills which is there with our students, and as per the skills they will be employed in proper and respective companies. Similarly, some of them may go for research, higher studies, etc., depending on that. So their skills has to be identified, and that there should be a medium of appropriate assessment in the curriculum itself to do these things. But it can also, the assessment can also be a source of dissatisfaction, frustration, and anxiety for teachers as well as students. The first is, when you design an assessment, you have to ask this question: does it assess the right things? Are you assessing the right things? You want to assess something, are you assessing the same thing? You want to assess the problem solving capability of a student, but your assessment don't do that, then it's not a right assessment that you are giving to the students. Is it getting the best from learners? So whatever learners know, are you trying, is it possible? The assessment is through assessment, it is possible to extract all the skills or all the learnings that has happened in the classroom or out of classroom by the learners. So every assessment has some right point also, at which time you should do the assessment. So does it take place at the right points in your learning journey? So learning journey is that work when they come to the class for the first session in the course, and when they leave the class in the last session of the course. So which points in this learning journey have you incorporated your assessment? Is it the right point? Is it susceptible to cheating? Are you giving the assignment so that one student answers the assignment and everybody else is just copying from it? Or are you giving any online tests so that students just Google it and find the answers for it? So is it susceptible to cheating? That's also one question which has to be asked. Does it involve a sustainable workload? So you want to try many different assessments in your classroom as formative and summative assessment, but there is a time limit to that. There are only 39 lectures. In these 39 lectures, you have to cover the curriculum. You have to know what are the skills got by your students, and also you have to do lot of background work to do complete the assessment also. When you give the assessment, you have to construct the assessment instrument. You have to have all supporting technology for that. After that, you have to conduct it, and then later on you have to grade it, and then give it to students, give them feedback. So this involves a huge amount of workload. So is it feasible to do such type of assessment, and how many such assessments are possible in a classroom or in a course? That has to be decided. So these are the 5 things, because you may be very enthusiastic to do many type of assessment, but that may not be feasible in your course or curriculum. So these are the 5 questions you should ask always. Does it assess the right thing? Is it getting the best from learners? Does it take place at the right points in the learning journey? Or is it susceptible to cheating? Or does it involve a sustainable workload? So if you get some satisfactory answer to these questions, that means you had a successful assessment techniques employed in your course. So there is a life cycle for assessment and feedback. So this is the assessment. Many people who put their very good things in the internet and give it for free. So I have used such resources to get this diagram. So it starts with specifying the objectives of assessment, what I am trying to do with this assessment. Then setting the assessment instrument, which is most of the time, if it is a summative assessment, it is setting a question paper. Then think about what are the supporting technologies that we'll be using to implement that assessment technique. Then you have to submit it. Then marking and production of the feedback is there. Recording of grades is there. Then after that, returning these marks to the students and giving them feedback. Then reflecting upon it. So students can also reflect, the teachers can also reflect what I have achieved from this assessment. Can I improve this? Does it actually did what it is supposed to do? So all this will again go back to specifying the objectives. You may modify the objectives, you will retain the same objectives, or you altogether cancel everything and set some new objectives, etc. All these things are possible when you actually seriously reflect upon the results of the assessment that you have put. So this is a normal cycle. We all know that as a teacher for so many years, we have seen this cycle of assessment and the feedback. So let me come to the 5 principles of assessment. So when you are designing any assessment, there are these 5 principles you have to keep it in mind. So what are these 5 things? So one is the authentic. The assessment should be very much authentic. That is, you have to prepare the learner for what they are going to do next. And you are trying to meet the employer needs. The current industry needs is this. So I have to etc. content delivery, etc. according to the new industry standards. I will also have to change my assessment technique also meeting those standards or meeting aligned to those curriculum needs, okay? So that my students are industry ready. Meeting employer needs, testing knowledge and skills in a more realistic, contextualized and motivating way. So I have a second year subject and I'm trying to put them to some subject, very high level concepts I am teaching, which they cannot relate it to the course that I am teaching. So it needs to be realistic. It needs to be contextualized in the students context, in the curriculum context, in the institution context, etc. And it should be motivating also. It should not be such that everybody is getting some 0 marks or 1 marks, etc. So it becomes demotivating for them and they will lose interest in that course itself. So the assessment has to be motivating also. Next is it should be accessible. So I have put some assessment technique where I require very high-end tools to take that assessment, and all children may not be able to go for that. So that some proprietary software, which is 10 lakhs, 20 lakhs software I'm using, and then it is not accessible to every person, or my institution is not that rich to provide those resources. So that should not happen. So the assessment has to be accessible. And it should be designed throughout to be usable by everyone to the great possible extent. So if we have some problems with students' ability, particularly the handicapped students, etc. So we'll try to accommodate them also in the greatest possible extent. So that's called an accessible assessment. Then appropriately automated. Like earlier I told, I'm very enthusiastic about taking assessment in the class. but I have to do a lot of work to do that, and I don't have that much time. The students, so much time is also wasted in doing that assessment. So I don't want to do that. So I have to balance between the appropriateness of the assessment as also the other things. The workload of the teacher also has to be taken into care. So easy teachers marking and feedback workload, providing quicker, more detailed, more actionable feedback for the students. So I want to give detailed feedback to the students, but I am giving it so late that after 1 or 2 months, so students will not have time to reflect on that, study on that, where I have gone wrong, and improve it for the next assessment. That time they will not get. So that is why there should be a quicker and more detailed and more actionable feedback for the student. Students should be able to know where I have gone wrong, what is the problem with me, how I can improve it and do it in the next, better in the next assessment. And it has to be continuous. So it's not like that at one course is there, I will do some assessment at 1 month. After that, I will not do anything for till the last semester end, etc. That should not happen. So it should be continuous, small modules should be there. It should be continuous, and it should be lifelong learning also. It's not like that one course they read and you do the assessment for that and they'll forget about that. So there should be a link of that assessment to the further courses and further engineering skills that are required. So it should be rich in practice opportunities and reflecting the fact that students today need to be capable of lifelong learning. Because whatever tools and techniques and programming paradigms, for example, if they have learned, by the time they will come out of engineering, industry may need something else and they have to get training for that. But they should have the adaptability skills also to learn these new things. So whatever skills you are giving them in this at this point of time, it should be such that it should be continuous, and they should have some lifelong learning from that. And secure work they are submitting is their own and abide by the rules. So may not be possible in an environment that we are today, but still we have to give at least to provide some checkpoints, etc., so that all the students don't copy the same assignment, submit the same thing, etc. So that should be there. The question should be such that questions are different for different students, or maybe some collaborative activity, group activity you can do. So per group different assignment, all these are possible. So you have to see this also. Like otherwise, the purpose of assessment itself fails. So these are the 5 principles: automated, continuous, and secure. So now come to, because this STTP is on our education 4.0 and which is aligned with the industry 4.0 standards. So education 4.0 is creativity is the foundation of education 4.0. So we are education we are moving towards the innovation based education, where a lot of artificial intelligence techniques may be utilized or has to be utilized for all the aspects of education. So education 4.0, as already 2 days are over, so you must have heard a lot about education 4.0, so I will not elaborate on that. So this is a normal definition of education 4.0, which is a purposeful approach to learning that lines up with the 4th industrial revolution and about transforming the future of education using advanced technology and automation. So teachers are not only the content delivery people, they are called as a facilitators. So teachers have to facilitate at every point of time. Teachers have to facilitate, set the proper objectives, and design the proper curriculum for that. Doing and it is used to understand and improve the student learning. The basic objective of any assessment is understanding and improving the student's learning. It involves making expectations explicit and public. You cannot hide what is expected from an assignment. So that is why you are specifying the objectives. If you are teaching a particular topic, you should know that what I am expecting from the students. So I will make my objectives very explicit and very public, which should be seen by all the stakeholders before giving an assessment. Then the next step is select appropriate criteria and high standards. Then you have to systematically gathering, analyzing, and interpreting the evidence. How to this is to determine how well the performance matches those expectations and standards. So once you are given the assessment, you have the output of assessment. You have to check with the expectations that you have made or objectives that you have designed, and then find the gap between them. So are we achieving the expected outcome from the assessment that we have done? And using the resultant information to document also, to explain also, and to improve the performance also. This is the standard definition of assessment. So there is a small activity here. So using the Mentimeter. And we can use the code 20, 40, 24, 67. We just so can you see the questions on the screen?
Just a moment, ma'am. Just a moment.
Yes, madam.
Yeah. So what you have to do is you have to write down what are the different purposes of assessment. And can you see the code 20, 40, 24, 67? 20402467. This is the code. So I'll just give you maybe 2 minutes. So let us stop here and see, because this was a very simple assessment. We'll just see what are the answers given by the participants. So these are the different purposes of assessment: to check students' perform, understandings, ranking, evaluate the students, check the learning, to check the performance. Okay. So most of them have come to these. Most of them have written evaluation. But
Ma'am, your that screen is not visible.
this screen
Means on which you have got the answers from others.
I have shared it. Now
No, it is not visible. You can stop share and again share that screen.
I will just switch off my video and then. Is it visible now?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. It is visible.
So these are the answers given by the students, all of participants. And we'll see that the higher the number, higher the size, means most people have given that as an answer. So evaluation is the answer given by most of them. Okay, assessment is evaluation, but we have also to say that what are you evaluating? What are the things that you are evaluating? So the other things that people have written, that is the answer to measure the learning and ranking, judgment, apply the learning, students perform, etc. So let us see, I have some answers for you. So let me see what are those answers. Now can you see the screen?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
No, that means I have to again start.
Actually,
Yeah. Now can you see?
yes, yes, ma'am. Now your presentation is visible, ma'am.
So these are the major, if I see all the answers given by you, I can actually put it in 4 baskets. So what are those 4 baskets? So first basket is selection. Selection means to select the candidates for various educational opportunities and careers. So we give assessment to select the candidates for a job, for placement, for anything, or for giving a project, etc. So we first give a test and then rank and then select the students who, only those students who have performed up to some mark. The second is to encourage the students to learn so that once they give the assessment, they'll know that where they stand. So they know that they have to study more. So that motivates them, encourages them to study. Then occasional deadlines or external stimulus can concentrate and energize students' activities. Sometimes some challenging tasks given to the students will motivate them to do some additional effort, put some additional effort, do something extra or challenging, etc. Then second thing is to feedback, to reflect upon what they have learned and what they still need to know. And fourth is standard maintenance. So to tell you, all of us are very much knowing about NBA, NAC, etc., where students' performance and students' participation in many activities and their assessments, etc., are very important for accreditation bodies. So to assure employers, accreditation body like our students are good, they are up to some mark. So many percentage of students are going for higher studies. They are being placed in a good company, etc. For providing this information, this is one of the purpose of the assessment. So it is a standard maintenance. So what all reasons you give as the purpose of assessment, all these will fit into these 4 baskets: selection, motivation, feedback, or standard maintenance. So for these reasons or purpose of assessment, we have some modes of assessment. What are these modes of assessment? So modes of assessment are formal versus informal assessment, formative versus summative assessment, norm reference versus criteria. So I'll quickly go through each of them. Formal assessment is that we do as a summative assessment where we take a test, a quiz or a paper and we document it, and some score or a grade is given based on the student's performance. Informal assessments are assessments which are carried out by students as part of their classroom activities or group activities. They do not contribute to students' final grade. That means you don't document it or you just ask questions many times in the class after teaching some topic. In the middle of the class, you may ask questions. That's also one form of informal assessment that we do. Students may not be aware also that assessment is being done. So they are not aware that they are being assessed. It is for you to judge how what I have taught, is it effective, how much students have understood, etc. The intention here is to just monitor the students' progress. So this is formal and informal assessment. Formative and summative assessment. Formative assessment is a type of an informal assessment but takes place in the learning environment. It also provides information on the learner's progress and it's complementing to teaching and learning. So you are doing formative assessment to complement the teaching and learning. You know that if I have to teach this topic, I have to teach something else before that because students are not understanding this concept because I have not taught them the previous concept. Will be used to set learning goals and success criteria. So I will know based on the formative assessment how much my students may achieve and what will be the success criteria, and to provide feedback to the learners. The summative assessment is exactly reverse of that, is to measure and record individual attainment. So after completing the course or mid of the course, you want to know that what is the student's individual attainment. It is assessment of learning. Formative assessment is called as assessment for learning. Summative assessments are called as assessment of learning. It may be internal assessment criteria or standard you measure the performance of standard. You say that the student got 10% CGPA or he has 70% marks. These many students have got 70% marks. They're formally recorded and they contribute to the final ranks and grades. This is summative assessment. So there is a third type of assessment which is called as a diagnostic assessment. So before you start a course, you want to know where your students stand. So you are not actually doing any formative assessment. So formative assessment is in between the teachings that you do. But diagnostic assessment are, you want to find out what knowledge and skills students are bringing to the class so that you will tailor your instructional strategies and your content delivery based on that. You want to find out how my students are differing from each other. That is, what are the individual differences, range of differences. Some students are very good, some are very bad, and some students are in between. So how to tailor my instructions? So that's the purpose of diagnostic assessment. So you can do the diagnostic assessment before starting any new topic, before starting the first topic in the class for a course, etc. So that's called as a diagnostic assessment, just to know what knowledge and skills, prior knowledge and skills students bring to the class. So that's a diagnostic assessment. There is some assessment called as norm reference versus criteria reference. Norm reference is you compare actually examinees' performance to that of other examiners. Like you have a relative ranking for examinations such as CAT, JEE, etc. So the goal of this norm reference test is to rank the set of examiners. Criteria reference is each examiner's performance compared to a predefined set of criteria standard. That is, these students, if he gets 60% marks, he is in first class, or I can say he passes or fails. Whether or not, the goal is to determine whether or not the candidate has demonstrated a mastery of certain skills or set of skills. So usually the results are pass, fail, and they are used to make decisions about job entry or certification or licensure, etc. So that's the criteria reference. These are not what you can say mutually exclusive. They can be overlapping. They can be formative assessment, informal assessment, and they may be norm reference or something like that. So mostly norm and criteria reference are individual and they are mutually exclusive. There are other types of assessment which we do, that is subjective versus objective. This normally we do that in the class. So objective questions require learners to select correct response from several alternatives. So you have either or you have to give a short phrase or a short sentence as an answer. And usually they have one correct answer, may not be. And it can also be used to test the higher order thinking skills of learners. So we have a myth that if you have an MCQ question or an objective questions, then we are actually not testing any higher order thinking skills. So objective questions can be very complicated and they may require very critical thinking process to answer. Objective questions can be true false answers, multiple choice answer, multiple response answer, matching questions, etc. So suppose we have this, for example, objective questions can be quite challenging. So this can be one of the questions for programming subject or any data structure subject. Suppose each set is represented as a linked list with elements in arbitrary order. Which of the operations among union, intersection, membership, cardinality will be slowest? Now the students not only have to understand the algorithm of these four functions or these four operations, they also have to know that how much time each operation will take. And time means on what things they depend upon, the number of lines of code or the strength of your processor, etc. So all these things are required to be understand to answer these simple objective questions. So objective questions can be quite challenging also. So I'm not asking these questions to the participants, but it is just an example given to you. The answer is union and intersection. Okay, so this will be the slowest operations among all these operations which are shown. Subjective questions are essay type of questions, require students to answer in the form of either describe, explain, discuss, compare, reasoning, etc. And they can have more than one correct answer. They test the ability of learners to be able to organize the things. Multiple concepts are involved. So they have to organize it, sequence it, interpret it, correct, and find out multiple concepts, connect them. All these are subjective type of questions. We are assessing the ability of learners to do all these things. They can be extended response questions, short answers, and essays, etc. These are the examples of subjective questions. So what is the summary? Summary is assessment has some purpose. They have some modes. They generate outcome. Assessment is followed by performance evaluation. Can be designed using any assessment tools, is conducted in a particular location, and it requires an assessment instrument, that is question paper. So there is some activity for you. You have to use the same code. Okay, I'll just share. So this is the question. Can you see the question now?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Match the scenario with the purpose of assessment. Can you see this? Coming really small. So the scenario A is to get feedback on teaching and teachers' performance. Okay. And B is reinforcement, behavior modification. C is to understand level of students' knowledge in order to categorize or rank. D is understand level of students' knowledge to inform course implementation. And E is standardization of organization. So assessment types as can be purpose can be summative, diagnostic, or formative.
Ma'am, can we write in chat box?
No, you have to put there itself.
Okay, okay.
Go to this Mentimeter. Share again. Can you see the screen? So now you can clearly see on the slide. Let me see what answers you have given. So these are the answers. That is 25% people have given A as an answer. 42% people have given B as an answer, and 25% people have given C as an answer, and the rest of them have given none of them. So the correct answer is actually this, C. So only 25% people could answer it correctly. So let me go to the slide. So if you are not able to see the slide, let me know, please. So this is the answer. C is the answer because A is to get feedback on teaching and teachers' performance. So it has to be formative assessment. That is A3. Then reinforcement or behavior modification has to be again 3, formative assessment. To understand level of students' knowledge in order to categorize or rank has to be summative assessment. And understand level of students' knowledge to inform the course implementation. That is before actually teaching the course, you want to know what students know, what are the level of your students. That is actually diagnostic assessment. And standardization of organization is again a summative assessment. So these are the so answer is C, A, B, C, 1, B, 2. So once you teach some topic in the class, you can actually have such a objective question put, MCQs put, so that you will be able to know what is the correct answer. So there are many tools available to do that. Like quizzes is there, Mentimeter is there. So I have used Mentimeter. So there are a lot of tools, and every day new tools gets added. So we cannot have that this is the tool set for doing this. That's not possible. So you can just search in Google. So for doing this, and many of the learning management systems themselves provide so many tools to do this. So what methods to use for assessment? You can have many such methods like written, oral, project, case studies, lab, portfolio, interview, survey, etc. So for all these things, you need an instrument. So instrument, this slide I have put just for the sake of completion. I'm not touching any of this. So instrument consists of set of items. That is, each item is a question. It is associated with Bloom's level, difficulty index, discrimination index, validity, etc. It can have types like subjective, objective, whatever we have seen, different types or modes of assessment. So now till this point, we have seen so many concepts related to assessment, so we can connect it together. So how will you connect? You can use a concept map to connect it together. So you create a concept map. So I have already created a concept map for assessment. So now you must not have imagined there can be a concept map for assessment itself. Okay. So this is assessment. So assessment, all aspects of assessment I have put in this concept map. So if I understand this concept map, or I am able to draw this concept map, or a student is able to draw this, anything like this concept map for a topic, it means that he has understood the topic completely, because it involves all the concepts in that particular domain, as well as the minute connections of links between those concepts. So if he understands these concepts as well as the links between them, that means he has understood the topic completely. So the assessment requires assessment instrument. It has a set of items. Item has a type. It can be subjective, objective, essay type, short answer, MCQ, etc. It has a quality, which is difficulty index, discrimination index, etc. It is associated with a cognitive level, like Bloom's taxonomy. It can also have reliability. And assessment instrument can be designed by an assessment tool. It can be written, knowledge survey, PR, poster, presentation, portfolio, written reports, etc. It has modes that we have seen: subjective, objective, formal, informal, non-reference, etc. Okay, is followed by performance evaluation. It can be manual or computerized performance evaluation. It can do group performance, or it can do classification. Purpose can be feedback, standard maintenance, motivation, etc. Similarly, feedback. Outcome can be marks, grades, percentages. It can be location. There can be a location for assessment. Is conducted in a location where classroom, lab, field assessment, etc. So what you have done is what this concept map indicates is assessment domain with all its aspects and all the concept, detailed sub-concepts involved in that assessment and the links between them. And you can see some cross links also. It's not like that there is a tree structure. It is completely a graph structure and all the links are there. I have used Y8 tool to construct this concept map. There are many tools available to construct the concept map. So concept map is also one type of assessment that you can give to the students. So now coming to that, before taking some examples of assessment, we'll see from students' viewpoint what happens is assessment is the curriculum. They are not bothered about what is there in the curriculum. They are only bothered about what they will be tested on. So if you want your students to learn completely, you have to give a very good assessment covering the entire syllabus and with proper thinking skills, thinking levels, etc. using Bloom's taxonomy. Then only you will be sure that students have understood. So from the teacher's perspective, assessment is last. That is, it goes with the objectives, then learning outcomes. Then you decide what teaching activities to be done for that, and then you decide the mode of assessment. But for students' perspective, it is assessment first. They are bothered about the assessment, okay, and then then they will decide what learning activities I should do to be successful in that assessment and what outcomes. So this is the approach followed by students, and this is the approach followed by a teacher. So if you want to link these two things, this is the only thing which links these two perspectives, teacher and students perspective, that is objective. So this is from a famous Biggs paper. This is called as a constructive alignment. So this diagram is called as a constructive alignment. So there should be a constructive alignment between the questions that you are asking and the objectives that are there for that curriculum. So you have to match these teachers' expectations to students' level of learning. That is missing link is at objectives. Okay. So this is possible using some effective design of outcome-based education. So you have this triangle and you have to connect this triangle. The course outcome has to be connected to assessment. Assessment is connected with instructional strategy. Course outcome is also connected to instructional strategy. That's OB. So what is course curriculum outcome is what students will be able to demonstrate after learning the course. Instructional strategies, what kinds of activities in and out of class will reinforce these curriculum outcomes and prepare students for assessments. And assessment is what kinds of tasks will reveal whether students have achieved the curriculum outcome. Okay, so we are only bothered about this, the circle which I have made. So what are the objectives and what is the assessment? What is the objectives will decide the purpose of assessment, and assessment part will decide what kind of task you will be giving as an assessment. So now come to the point like example classroom assessment techniques. In short, I have called it as CATs. Okay? Even literature called it as CATs. What are CATs? So classroom assessment techniques are generally, they are simple, non-graded, anonymous in-class activities designed to give you and your students useful feedback of the teaching learning process as it is happening. That is in the context of teaching and learning. The assessment graded also, which are anonymous also. That means you don't know which students have got how much marks, etc. Most of the time, and this is in that context, in the learning environment, and it gives useful feedback to the students as well as teachers. So some example CATs which is not normally being heard or used. This example CATs are minute paper or weekly report, concept map, knowledge survey, peer review, think pair share, game-based assessment, etc. So we are talking about assessment for learning. It is not assessment of learning. So we are more concentrating about the formative assessment, which is done in the classroom to inform students, to give students the feedback about their learning. And it is non-graded. Okay. So minute paper or a weekly report is a type of assessment. So for all these things, you can refer to the paper below. I'll share this PPT. So you can refer these papers. These papers contain the details of this assessment, or either the paper or the website, whatever it is, you will get the details of this particular assessment method. So what's a minute paper? It's a concise note. It should take only 1 minute. It is written by students. They can write it in groups or individual. And it focuses on a short question presented by the instructor to the class, usually at the end of the session. So at the end of the session, you give a minute paper, or there can be another like weekly report, which are papers written by students each week in which they analyze and reflect on what they have learned that. Purpose of this is to get a rapid feedback about what students think they are learning and what conceptual difficulties they are experiencing. It's strictly a formative assessment. It's not a group assessment, but it is an individual assessment. Here, even though it is written as group, normally the minute paper is given as for an individual assessment. So this is an example of minute paper or a weekly report. So these example questions can be like minute paper. What was the most important point of the class? So you have studied this topic in the class. And what is the most important thing in that? What was the most surprising idea or concept that you have learned today? What questions remain unanswered in your mind? What questions from this class might appear on the next quiz or test? You can ask them actually. And what was the muddiest point of the class? Muddiest point means what is the point which you didn't understand, nobody understood. It is the dirtiest subtopic that has been taken in the class, nobody has understood. So that's called as the muddiest point. What was the main concept illustrated by in the class demonstration or an experiment? So this type of questions you can ask. So if you get so many muddy points, that means there is some fault in your teaching itself. And if you are getting only few students are telling some muddiest point, then you can say, okay, it is an individual attention that I have to give to those students. The majority of the students talk about one single point. That means that that point the students have not understood. So you can repeat that in the class, in the next class. Weekly reports you can ask is, what did I learn this week? What questions remain unclear in mind? What questions would you ask your students if you were the professor to find out if they understood the material? So these can be for a complete week, or this can be just for one session. There are many online tools available, like you can have Google Docs, etc., Open Office tools, Microsoft Office tools, etc. You can share with the students. Students will write the material point. Or what you can do, if you don't have the required technology in your classroom, you can just put a box or a bowl and tell the students to write in a piece of paper and put that paper in that bowl. You don't open it there. You take it to your room and then open it and find out what are the answers written by the students. They should not write any long answers. They should write one single line or one single word as an answer. So what teachers, how will teachers evaluate? Teachers collect these papers, reflect upon them, note emergent themes that is appearing in those papers, like the most frequently occurring point, muddiest point or something, and formulate adjustments for the next class. Weekly reports can become part of assignments. They can be graded if needed on the specific criteria decided by the teacher. Teachers answer unique responses individually or typical responses in the class. So this is actually these we do normally in the class, but they are not documented or recorded. By saying that it is a minute paper, you can document it. So all the papers will be with you. You can write every week, you can write a report on that, and that will be collected together, and then you will understand how you have done that course in that semester. Second, concept map. So what is definition of concept map is two-dimensional hierarchical node link diagrams. It serves as a kind of template or a scaffold. It helps to organize and to structure it. So whatever knowledge they have gained, they can actually represent it in a graphical form. We call it as a concept map. And concept map has some focus question. You want to know that whether they have understood all the concepts that you have taught and on the intricate links between those concepts. Semantically, how they are related, whether they have understood or not. That's the purpose of concept map. To assess how well students see the big picture, to gain insight into the way students view a scientific topic, to examine the valid understandings and misconceptions. If links are not properly made, then you know that there are some misconceptions which the students hold, which you can clear. Okay? To assess the structural complexity of the relationship the students depict. It is used for diagnostic assessment also. That is, before coming to the class, you want to know how much students know about a particular topic. You can tell them to draw the concept map. It can be a formative assessment also in between the class. Like one subtopic is over, you can tell the students to draw the concept map. And then the next topic is there, you can tell them to extend that concept and include that topic. So at the end of the course, you will have the concept map, whole concept map for the whole course. Okay, so chapter wise concept map and links between the chapters, etc. And finally, the complete concept map for the complete course can be there. It can be an individual or a group assessment. So, but every concept map has some focus questions. You cannot have unfocused and any random ambiguous question for the concept map. So construct the concept map with the focus question. So what are the different applications that can use graph as a data structure? So you can tell a small topic, and you have taught graph in the data structure course, and you tell them to draw a concept map for that. So that's a focus question. So the concept map should answer that focus question. So there are many technology tools available for that, like WIED. I have drawn the assessment concept map using WIED. This is CMAP tools. CMAP tools and WIED are open source tools. CMAP tool is very, very easy to use also. Similarly, compendium and proprietary tools are also available. Okay, and so much research is being done in the concept map area, how it is useful and how it is effective for students learning, etc. Then how teachers will evaluate. When students have drawn the concept map, you want to evaluate that concept map, which concept map is better than that, how much they have understood, etc. So you can design a rubrics for that. So you can say what valid propositions, levels of hierarchy, how much hierarchy level they are knowing. More hierarchy means more in-depth understanding. Number of branching, cross links, how many cross links are there, and specific examples, etc. So you can use these rubrics by assigning different performance level for each scoring criteria defined above. Okay, so this is an example of concept map. So you can use the CMAP tools, download the CMAP tools, and you can use it to draw the concept map. So this is what is hydroponics. This is a school level activity. So it will be, you can see that a complete part, if you can say that's the answer. Hydroponic cannot be confused with organic, that is produced with agricultural toxins that are chemical fertilizers. Correct? Hydroponics is healthy, is pretty, and just care that is artificial. So you can have a complete link as a phrase. So how many such proper phrases are there in this? How many cross links are there? That is one particular concept is connected by many other concepts. Like this is having two different links. How many links are there? All this can be the method to assess this particular concept. You can design a rubric for that. Similarly, this is another very interesting assessment technique, which is called as a knowledge survey. So what is knowledge survey is consists of series of questions that will cover the full content of a course and evaluate student learning and content mastery at all levels. So what is the purpose of this knowledge survey? Is to get baseline information about their preparation based knowledge at the beginning of the course. So you conduct a knowledge survey at the beginning of the course, and then you conduct the knowledge survey before the test, before the exam, and then you map it with the exam score. So you will know what the confidence level of the students and are they matching with the actual score that the students are getting. And it can be used for diagnostic also, formative assessment also, and it is an individual. You can use Google Form, ProProfs, Quizmaker, Exam Builder, Quiz Center, Easy Test Marker, quizzes, etc. There are many available. It's like a proper MCQ questions. But the students are not answering that question. Students are just telling how much confidence they have in answering that question. Okay. So this is one example question for a knowledge survey. So in this knowledge survey, don't actually try to answer any of the questions provided. Instead, rate your confidence to answer the questions with your present knowledge. Read each question and then fill on A, B, and C. So mark an A response if you feel confident that you can now answer the question sufficiently for graded test purposes. Mark a B response to the question if you can now answer at least 50% of it, and if you know precisely where you could quickly get the information needed and could return here in 20 minutes or less to provide a complete answer. Mark a C as a response to the question if you are not confident that you could adequately answer the question. So you can have many other criteria also. Here A, B, C are there. You can have A, B, C, D, E, F, whatever amount of criteria you have. How teachers will evaluate is teachers will evaluate survey responses. They are not graded by the teacher. These responses are compared to the exam results to find whether students overestimated or underestimated on survey. In comparison is done to measure the level of confidence of students' learning and content mastery. Are they matching? Some students will be too overconfident, but they don't actually get the good marks in that aspect. So you have to tell them that this requires more effort, and then this also you have to study. Then only it is possible to get good marks. So I have done it in my class once when I was teaching DWM course. I have taken I have taken actually so many questions. Only part of it I have given here. I have taken 25 questions, and for each question, strongly agree, etc., does not agree. So these are the questions that I have put. I can determine the required number of clusters from a set of data items in a database using K-means clustering. So students have written, these are the responses of students. The student one has written, he is agreeing to that. And I can illustrate the behavior of K-means clustering in the presence of outliers. He has done agree. I can provide the justification of use of support and confidence in association rule mining. Disagree. So like that, for each of the questions, I have to design the questions in such a way that I can answer, I can rate it using this. And questions should be of little bit higher difficulty level. Some tricky questions also should be there. So students should be able to think that and then rate them. And students should do it authentically also. That's one problem with the knowledge survey. After that, what I will do is, once the exam gets over, I try to match this confidence with the actual marks that they got, and do some interpretation from that. I have written a paper also on that. So this was one part of that paper, which I had done. Then sample knowledge survey questions and student response. Okay. So there's another assessment technique. So if teachers are bored assessing the work of students, you can go for a peer review. That means you are not involved in their reviewing process. Each student will review some other student's work. So peer review is form of external evaluation carried out by peers, that is person of equal standing. Then to provide opportunity for students to assess themselves, each other's work anonymously. So every student will be assigned the work of some other students, but they will not know which students' work they are assigned. Similarly, their work also will be assigned to some other students. And this also helps students to gain the ability to think critically. That means if others' work they are reviewing, means they will do it with sincerity, they will find out the actual faults, synthesize this information, communicate in a non-technical language how to do this. All this they will learn because of this peer review. It can be formative, it can be summative, it can be individual, it can be group assessment. And now so many learning management systems are actually helping to do this peer review, including Moodle, Google Classroom, and there are calibrated peer review tool, Peer Studio, etc. And there are a lot more. If you just Google it, you will find out that peer review tools, so many peer review tools are available. So you can give the questions that you give for peer review should have some amount of higher level, that is higher level Bloom's taxonomy should be there for the question. Write a technical report for the mini project that you have implemented for the data structure course. So students have written a technical report, and those reports will be reviewed by other students. One student's report will be reviewed by other students. And how teachers will evaluate? Teachers can give this review team the rubric. So you want anything should not be written by students, so you can give a proper rubrics, and they can use some scoring criteria like presentation, coverage, clarity, knowledge, etc. For each criteria, you can give excellent, very good, good, satisfactory, etc. Like that, you can actually design the rubric and give them, and then they will use that rubric to grade. So all the students will be given the rubric beforehand itself, so that they will know how to write the report also based on that rubrics. So this is now becoming very, very innovative assessment techniques, the game-based assessment techniques. The game-based assessment use of games, video games, and other types of games to assess learners' various competencies, skills, knowledge, and dispositions. Okay. It is used to evaluate the fluid intelligence. That means they have solved many questions in the class. Will they be able to adapt to the unfamiliar situations to solve the problems? And whether they have the memory to assimilate the new information and manipulate this new information. Then problem solving ability. So you can put many complicated problems in terms of games, and then the ability to individually identify, systematically apply the rules, etc. And apply the most appropriate solution to new and complex problems. Creativity means they come up with multiple distinct and effective solutions to an unfamiliar problem. So this is advantage of a game-based learning. It should be used for formative, summative, individual, or a group assessment. So you can have game-based assessment techniques like crossword, jigsaw puzzles, flashcards, interactive quizzes, Pac-Man, and so many tools are available. I think this is wrong. So there are some free sites for creating games and puzzles for the courses. You can use that. Like this is one of the open source tools available. So you can create your jigsaw puzzle and crossword, etc. using this free site, Teachers First blog. So similarly, other game-based learning, gamification. This is so much of information available for this game-based learning. Most of the games have their own scorecards. They have leaderboards, their feedback mechanism, etc. Or next, otherwise, you can create a rubric and for summative to measure the level of engagement, how much they were engaged in doing that work, how much time they have taken to complete the score, how much score they have got. All these can be used as a rubrics, and then you can give it to the assessment. So this is a another technique, think, pair, share, which can be implemented using a tool also, or that means you can go for a computer-based assessment also or a normal assessment also. So think, pair, share, I think it is a well-known technique. It has been popularized so much. So you have this is an active learning techniques as well as an assessment technique, and achieve benefits for a small group cooperative learning and in a very large class, and it's used for formative assessment. Okay. So it is a collaborative active learning strategy in which students work on problem posed by an instructor. First, they will solve individually, that's a think phase, then in pair or groups, and finally together with the entire class, they share. So that's called as TPS, think, pair, and share. So think phase, teacher asks a specific question about the topic. Students think about what they know or learned. and they will individual answer to the question. They will take 1 to 3 minutes. Pair phase teaches us another question which is related to the previous one, that is suitable or deepen the student's understanding of the topic. Each student is paired with another student. They share their thinking with each other and proceed with the task. It should take 5 to 10 minutes. Share phase, once this activity is done, pair activity is done, students will share their thinking or solution. So if there are too many students in a large class, you can actually ask 5 to 10 groups. Then you will find that after some time, the same answers will come. Then you can stop. So you can just ask if there is any different answer from the answers that we have got, then only they will share in the class. So that way you can reduce the time required for that. So sharing phase also requires 10 to 20 minutes. So this is done for a conceptual understanding, emphasizing on conceptual understanding. So debug a network, emphasizing on analytical or logical reasoning. Design a network, emphasizing on the design analytics, etc. Ill-structured problems are there. You can go for a TPS assessment activity. Suppose this is one assessment activity that was taken by Professor Sridhar Iyer in a very large classroom of 250 students of first year programming subject. It's CS101 subject. So he had taken in one lecture, write the pseudocode for sorting the array. The students do write down the answer the given question. What instructor will do is encourage the students to write instead of working mentally. Pair phases, discuss your answer with your neighbor, do pros and cons analysis of your algorithm. What students will do? They will identify parts of answer that they have missed out, discuss which answer is better, do pros and cons analysis if there are multiple solutions, etc. What instructor will do? Walks around the class to get a feel of student solution, gives comments where necessary to ensure that discussion is on track. Share activities, they participate in the discussion of solution and of your solution and others. Share their own solution, critique other solution. That's the students will do. What instructor will do is they'll discuss what are the essential parts of an answer, pros and cons of various solutions given by student. Actually, this TPS activity led to a large discussion in the class. So you can do that. You can actually tell the students to write a program also. If they have laptop and you have the technology support, tech support in your classroom, you can do that. And TPS activity can also be done in any sharing platform. So here there is another example of design system to manage your contacts information. So what are the functions you have to do? Then how will you store this information? Write a C++ class declaration for the data structures used. Discuss with your neighbor the answer and agree on the class declaration. Together write the code for the function. So share activities, participate in discussion of your solutions. For your course, you have to design the think, pair, and the share activity. Similarly, benefits is students are actively take part in that because they are not individually asked, so they are not scared of if I go wrong, what will happen. So they are actively engaged. They learn from each other because I have some conceptual understanding. My neighbor has some other conceptual understanding. They will argue with each other and try to come up with a common solution. And very large and ill-structured design problems and other problems can be, you can find some innovative solution to do this. It's like a brainstorming. And they have the ability to consider multiple points of view. That is, there are other solutions also for this problem that they will understand. So this is a very beneficial assessment technique that you can do very easily in your class with the tech support also, without tech support also, in offline environment also, in online environment also. Okay, other benefits are also there, makes the class interactive. There will be some noise in the class. People will be talking to each other. That's okay. Students realize that even others are struggling with the answers. I am not the only one who is not understanding. Others are there who are also not understanding. Builds a friendly yet academic atmosphere. Includes all the and the question should be such that we can break the solution into multiple steps. So such type of questions only you should ask. Otherwise, if you ask a question which has only one single answer, the purpose of TPS is lost. Okay, you can design a rubric for evaluating the TPS, the aptness, how apt the question is for the think phase, for the pair phase, for the share phase. Okay. So that means think phase is broad enough. All students in the class are able to write the response. In the pair phase, students require two students to do the activity. Such type of question should be there. Share phase elicits discussion among all students. It should actually do happen in the class. Whether it has happened or not, you can test using this rubric. Time every student's 1 to 3 minutes. They should be able to finish in 1 to 3 minutes. Otherwise, if you are asking very complex question, they'll not be able to finish in 1 to 3 minutes. Pair phase 5 to 10 minutes. Share phase around 10 minutes. And alignment, the pair phase should be aligned with the T phase, that is think phase, and share phase also should be aligned with the pair phase. And at the end of each, there should be a clear deliverable. That is, after the think phase, there should be a deliverable. Pair phase also should have some deliverable. Share phase also should have deliverable. Okay, so that's the evaluation rubric for TPS. So it has been extensively recommended and used by teachers. It can develop higher order thinking skills, and 83% of students on average are fully engaged in the classroom. This has been proved by the research. So the summary that we have got here is there are many different types of assessments, correct? And teachers can select suitable methods aligned with the objectives. There are technology tools available to assist teachers for almost all types of assessment. And most of the assessments can and have a strong research base. And there is a lot of scope for research in the field of learning analytics and automated assessment. So the last objective, I have kept it in the later slides. So I was not knowing whether the time will be sufficient to do that. So I think I have 20 more minutes to do that. So I will finish that also. So anybody has any questions till this slide, you can ask. So I will give you 2-3 minutes for that. You can put the question in the chat box, or you can they can switch on the speaker and then ask. Or it can be later also. Sukruti madam, you can decide.
No, ma'am, let them ask. If they have doubt, we can wait for 1-2 minutes.
Okay.
Sukruti ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yes, Kamal ma'am.
Yeah. So like all these evaluation methods, I would like to ask in the class of 70 or 80 at a time,
Yeah.
if you want to implement in an effective manner, how can we do it? Because if it's a small group, this particular method might be implemented very effectively, and it will be in the control of the teacher, and then the way we have designed we can implement. But when it becomes 70-80 strength of the class, which way we should do it, like all these methods?
Yeah. Which assessment method specifically? Because the knowledge survey or other are using Google Form or etc. So that we can do for a number of students. But TPS is a problem. But actually TPS is used. It has been proved that TPS is useful for a very large class. As I told that Professor Sridhar here has done this. The example which I have taken, I was an observer in that class. I was sitting in that class. He has taken it for around 250 to 300 students of first year engineering, computer science students for CS 101 course. Of course, for such a huge class, you require some teaching assistant or somebody, so 3 to 4 people who will go through that to cater to the individual people. But still, it can be very effectively done. So I have taken it in my class where there are 80 students. So the problem with our classes are the sitting arrangements are very, that is only 2 students in one bench or something. You cannot. It is possible to do because pair share involves only 2 people. Pair phase, what happens is when they are talking to pair, there is only one student with whom that particular student is talking. So there will not be lot of noise, etc. So they will be talking to each other. In the share phase, what happens is you will be asking students to share. So if one group tells that I want to share, they'll share in their class, and they will have a discussion. So the control is in our hand, in the teacher's hand. So I don't think there is any problem. There will be little noise, that is for sure. You will not have a pin drop silence in the class, and that should not happen also. So TPS activity will be a little problem. Otherwise, the other examples that I have taken, that is minute paper, that is during the end of the session, they will be submitting the muddiest point or the point which they like most, etc. And you will be going home or going to your room and then seeing what is happening, what students have written in that. So that's an information for your next class. Correct. Knowledge survey also is something like that. At the beginning of the course, you will give the survey questions like you do course exit survey, etc. Like that you do in the beginning of the course. And then before the actual test also, like after you have taught, then also you can do once. So to find out is there any difference in their confidence level. And later on, after the test is conducted, then you can match it. So that you are doing offline, not in the class.
Okay. Thank you.
So this is the thing. So there will be slight problem in controlling the class if the class is very big, etc. But I think it can be under the control of a teacher. So that's the popular myth by the teachers, that it is a problem to conduct TPS or a peer instruction or many other instructional strategy, because there will be a lot of nice neighboring classes will be disturbed, etc. But that doesn't happen too much. And over a period of time, students also will be accustomed to such type of assessments in the class. And you can use technology also. So is there any other question? So I can do some learning analytics and the projects
Hello.
I have done.
Yes, Archana ma'am.
Ma'am, I have my experience which I want to share it with you. Ma'am, I have tried these methods in the class of around, as Kamal ma'am said, 60 to 70 students. But I have found that only 10 to 15 students are really interested in participating in such activities. The rest of the students are not much interested, as they have not been used to this kind of methodologies in their prior education, maybe. So the results which I get are not up to the mark, or the objective with which these activities are being taken in the class are not met. So how to go about it?
Yeah. So the problem, the first time when you do this, you will have problem, but you will have to keep encouraging the students, and you have to clearly tell the students that this is not for any grading. This is just for your understanding in the class. Nobody is going to grade them in the class. Okay. So there will be some shy students in the class, but you will have to coax them, at least in the pair phase. Tell them to go take a round in the class, do it. So first run, second run, there will be a lot of improvement. So in the first step itself, you may not get, you will have to do a lot of work. So what if you have to implement any active learning strategy in the class, the teachers have to do more work than the normal teaching in the class. That is sure. So people have to work for that, do additional effort for that. So as you have taken an additional effort to do it in the first class itself, if you repeat that procedure maybe in the second or a third time, the students will be very much interested, and they will know that this is the way it is going to be in the class. So that may happen.
So ma'am, is it necessary that I have to work on the same batch, or
Necessary, this is just a formative assessment. TPS is not a summative assessment. So it is a formative assessment. So for the whole class, the class of 80 students, you can do whenever you are teaching the topic. After like every class, you need not do TPS. Maybe once in a week, you can go for a TPS activity in the class. So that after 3-4 lectures, you will be doing one TPS activity in the class. So some 3-4 times when they do the TPS activity, they will be taking not only TPS activity, one TPS activity, one some other gaming assessment activity, etc. You will do. That time they will know that this is the way it is taught. This particular course is being taught in this way, that they understand, and then they will participate more in that.
okay, ma'am.
Solution to that. Yeah, and make it prior itself that you are not going to grade that. No marks are given to students who are saying or who are not saying, etc. It is just for understanding. It is just for fun activity which is there in the class. So the controlling that it does not go beyond the actual question which is being put, that the teacher has to do.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. So can I continue so that the rest of the questions we'll take? Is there any other question?
We can continue. Hello?
Yeah, I'm continuing.
Okay.
So now, because I have done my PhD in educational technology, I was also introduced to so many new concepts, etc. And I got interested, and most of my projects I was involved and I am involved has some learning analytics component in that. And they specifically belong to educational assessment domain. Okay. So some of the problem statements I have written here, like to measure the alignment, automated tool to measure the alignment of assessment instrument that with a set of learning objectives. So if I input the learning objectives of a course and if I input my question paper, it will tell me how much alignment is there between the content among the objectives and questions, as well as the Bloom's taxonomy level. Okay. Similarly, if the second is semi-automatic generation of metadata. That means if I give a question paper for each question, it will tell me what type of question it is, what is the Bloom's level of that question, what is the type of questions. All this metadata associated for each question, it will automatically do it. Complete automation was little difficult, so it is a semi-automatic generation of metadata. Similarly, automatically generating the question paper from the blueprint that has been entered by the teacher, and where you have a semantically tagged question repository already available, use that repository and automatically generate the question paper. So everywhere some amount of artificial intelligence and semantic web technology is involved. Similarly, if you provide the syllabus to it and a question paper to it, it will find out how much syllabus is being covered by that question paper. So fairness of that question paper in terms of syllabus. That is, and it has an ontology driven framework is there. And given questions, it will find out the similarity among the questions, how much similarity is there among the questions. So this is part of my PhD work. Other than that, I had opportunity to work on some projects, interesting projects, like designing of rubrics for an automated essay scoring system, which was the latest one, but complete automation of the rubrics creation has not been done. But automated essay scoring, we have successfully done using natural language processing and machine learning framework. And discussion forum is also very large scale, massive open online courses, etc., like Coursera or the courses offered by IIT Bombay or many other things, edX platforms, etc. They have a discussion forum because there is no face-to-face interaction with the students. So the interaction, one of the medium of interaction is through discussion forum. So discussion forum also can become one of the medium of assessment. So what type of things students are discussing among each other? At what level of critical thinking is there in that discussion? All that can be. So we had planned. We had done one project which will actually try to find out automatic how much learning has happened, peer learning has happened in the MOOCs discussion forum environment. Then there are many big courses being offered by IIT Bombay X platform, like teacher training, T10 workshops, etc., where there are lakhs of students and they give feedback. So we had analyzed those feedback to find out that what are the drawbacks of that training program, like whether the feedback which is coming, is it a good feedback, sentiment analysis of that feedback. If it is a good feedback, it is about which aspect of that that workshop, like whether it is on the technical aspect, whether it is a content delivery aspect, whether the content itself, etc. So all with using an ontology framework, we had done this analysis, sentiment analysis of feedback generated. So like this was the first two, alignment. So I give questions from an assessment instrument. Here assessment instrument means question paper. It will take concepts, cognitive level, extract automatically from this, doing text analytics. Then it will map it to domain analogy and measure the alignment of that. Okay. So from learning objectives also, it will extract the concept and cognitive level. And then using this domain ontology, it will find the alignment, how much alignment can be there. Okay. So this is automated system. Similarly, there's another automated system which I told, question tagger. So I have a knowledge base, which is my dictionary. So I have a tagging engine. So I can input a question. Tagging engine will tag it, parse the question, finding which concepts or which topics of the syllabus are involved in that. What is the cognitive level of the, what is the question type in that? What is the difficulty level of that? And these tagged questions are again inputted into the question tag. So that's one system. This also involved the text analytics. Syllabus fairness of question paper is you give the question paper, you take one question from that, extract all these things from that, and build a tree structure out of that, build an ontology, and then find out how much syllabus coverage is there. This was another project which was taken. Okay. Then given one question, second question, you create a subset ontology of that and find the similarity, measure of that, how much similar it is, these two questions. So when you are creating a question bank, you can, when you are inputting a new questions into that, the new questions you will check with the existing question from the in the bank, whether how much similar they are. So if it is too much similar, you will not add that question into the question bank. Similarly, from the MOOCs forum, we have found out that how many messages in the discussion forum are off topic. That is, this was instructor-driven discussion forum. That is, every week instructor used to put some focus questions, and the participants used to discuss on that. So there were 0.2% which was off topic. That is, they do not belong to the focus question which was put. Then somewhere on based on negotiation and construction, somewhere only sharing and comparing. That is, pass on this this link to me. I like that discussion forum things which are happening, which is mostly, this is the case, 60 to 80% will be always sharing and comparing type of messages which are put. Some are very superficial, okay, thank you, etc., good morning or something like that. Okay. So some are constructive, like they don't agree with that, whatever the other person. So there is a constructive discussion which is happening in that, so how much it is happening. So this was the analysis, that is automated analysis using some deep learning model we had done on the forum data. Okay. So this was a sentiment analyzer. That is, there is a workshop, and this workshop's feedback we have categorized, automatically categorized as it is based for the implementation or the design. If it is an implementation, it is either the remote center problem, or lecture delivery, or technology, syllabus covering, or workshop, etc. Then each one will be again like lecture delivery can be knowledge, the ability to communicate, or the style of teaching, etc. And for each of them, we had given some positive or negative feedback. So at the end of this analysis, we will know that for which aspect of the workshop student has given the positive feedback or the negative feedback, and overall sentiment of the participants. And the participants are in lakhs, so they wanted some automated system to do that. So that project we have done. So these are the projects that I have done. Similarly, impact of discussion forum on the learning outcome. And similarly, another project we have done is automated essay scoring system. Okay, which grades on two aspects: the language used by the student to answer that question, as well as the domain accuracy, like correctness of that answer. So based on this, how you will assist the teacher in grading this language proficiency and domain accuracy using deep learning model, LSTM model we have used. So these are the projects I have done. So there is a lot of scope for the research work also in this learning analytics area and education assessment area. So this is what I wanted to say in this session. So thank you for patiently listening and asking some questions. If still you have some questions, you can ask. Hello.
Yes, participants, if anybody is having any question, please ask. Yes, Biju sir. Biju sir, you want to ask question? Okay, Jayan sir. Okay, any questions?
Madam, I have one question related to project evaluation. So when we are every year, we are getting different project groups. So their liking, their inclination, their approaching towards the project methodology is different. So can you just help me how to handle different category, different groups, different topic, and how should we evaluate those project groups so that that will benefit them during the entire academic year?
I didn't get your question. You mean to say that you have 2-3 groups, suppose available with you. They are working on different topics. Hello.
Yes, madam.
And their way of solving the problem is different. That will be different based on the project that they are having. No?
Project topics are different. Their capability is different. And then how we should see that they are moving in a proper, they're on the track, they're moving in a proper progressive path, or how to judge that. So what is to be done for such things?
Yeah, so one thing you can do is you can have periodic reviews of the project. So for periodic reviews, you have to give the proper rubrics and tell them that at the end of the first review, the students are expected to complete this much amount of work. And in any group activity, this problem will be there. Like all the 4 students in one group may not have the same capability, but that is a problem for any group activity, or maybe not a problem also. It is actually an advantage, or it's a good thing to have a mix of students among them. So what you can do is for every periodic review, you keep, there are many aspects of review. So at least one of the aspect of that will be catering to one student. So one aspect may not be catering to all the students, but there may be another aspect which will be catering to that type of students. So you have to design a rubrics and general rubrics in such a way that the things are being it caters to every type of students, not only to the intelligent student or only an average grade students or a low grade students, etc. So periodic review is very, very essential to bring together all the students in the class. And the inclination will be different because some will be very good in programming, some will be very good in designing. That is coding. Some students will be very good in coding, some will be good in analyzing and designing. Some will be the reports, etc. So in the reviews, periodic reviews, you should have all the aspects necessary for evaluating every student. It's not necessary that every aspect will be catering to all the students. So you have to decide how much marks you will be giving to each of the aspects of that grading.
Madam, just one thing in that, actually what is happening when the evaluation happens, that time the moderate, the student who is having moderate understanding, even the less contribution, will have a very good presentation. That is also there, and it is so impressive at that moment. But the regular progress is less, but the presentation skills are so high and the convincing capacity is too good. So that time, if the evaluation happens, then it may happen there can be some injustice on the student who is doing on the regular basis but having less presentation skills.
See, the control is in your hand, correct? All internal reviews control is in your hand. They are type of formative assessment. So you know that which student is coding and which student is doing. So naturally, you will not give more marks to that student because he is not good at other places. So that moderation of marks and grades has to be done by the teacher, the internal examiner. So internal examiner is very clear about it that for my group of students, this student is doing the proper work, regular work, etc. This student is good at presenting. So there are some marks associated with presentation also. In that category, that student will get more marks. But there are some aspects which is related to coding and implementation also. So in that case, that student will get less marks. So that will be averaged out and that will be cleaned. So that's what I'm telling. If you have a proper grading rubrics, which covers all the aspects like presentation, written communication, oral communication, implementation, clarity of knowledge, etc., etc. In that cases, for each aspect, some students will be good or some students will be better than the other students. So for them, for that aspect, they will get more marks than the other students. So finally, they will be averaged out. and you are not doing anything orally. You have proper documentation done for that. You have the objectives for each of the reviews which has to be done, and how much they have achieved and who has achieved that. This information is there by the end of the semester. If the students do very good presentation at the end, etc., that problem will occur only for the external guide. It will not occur a good student who has done it, who has implemented, etc. Correct. So that aspect is there. So that full record is there with you. So you can have that discretionary power to give proper marks to each of the aspects in your grading criteria. Is it not? So your final grade is not dependent upon only on the external marks given by the external examiner. The external examiner may feel that during that 30 minutes presentation, the student has done very nice. But you have the full documentation done telling that this student is implementation. So at implementation aspect, he has got less marks, and accordingly you can give marks. This is the way we normally do it. But to convince student, we can keep the record also. To convince student or to convince the external examiner, etc., we can have the record also. Regular periodic reviews, mark sheets, and everything are there with you. So you can put remarks also there in that.
Okay, is it okay, Rashmi ma'am?
Is it okay? Hello.
Hello.
Okay. Yes, Rashmi ma'am.
Madam, I could in between there was hello.
Yeah. Yes.
In between there is a net discontinuity, so that's the reason. But I could understand that. I could understand.
Okay.
Thank you, madam. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Rashmi ma'am. Ma'am, one more question is there in the chat box. Where does the informal assessment data used?
Informal assessment as such is not used anywhere, but you can keep the record of that so that you will have that where I had gone wrong in the previous run of the course. So I can adjust my content delivery or course implementation for the next time using that data.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. And one more question. In TPS, the pair should be of 2 students, or can we make 3 to 4 students in one group?
We can also make 3 to 4 students, but the problem is the sitting arrangements in our classrooms are like that 2 students are convenient.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so
because
much.
Because if we give behind benches and all, there will be a lot of talking among them.
That's correct.
Noise in the class.
Okay.
Yes, madam. Madam, one question was there. Whether we can apply TPS for project also to give the design problem analysis or manufacturing problems?
Actually, design problems are ill-structured problems are design problems are mostly ill-structured problems. So you don't know the proper solution of that because there are multiple solutions possible for that. So TPS can be a form of brainstorming activity to find a solution for some design problems in the class. So you can incorporate that in project-based learning. Actually, there is one facility in I'm not remembering this Microsoft Teams, where you can create sub-teams in that, and each of the sub-teams they can do their discussion on their own. So we have incorporated this type of things in the classroom, in online classroom also. So problems has to be a problem which is ill-structured, which does not have an easy solution for that, which requires some type of discussion, argumentations, etc. So then only the TPS activity will be effective in the class. So of course you can use it for a project or a design problem.
Okay. Is it okay, Vaibhav sir?
Yes, madam.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Yes, Divya, are you there?
Yes,
Okay. Yes. Divya, we can.
Yes. So on the behalf of everyone present, I would like to thank ma'am for giving the valuable guidance on the assessment and the tool of it to the participants and providing them deep insight how the evaluation and assessment is very important component in education 4.0. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation.
Thank you. And I am also very thankful to call me in the session. Thank you very much. And patiently listening all the participants and actively engaging in the lecture also.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes. For all the participants, now we have 5 minutes remaining. So after 5 minutes at 11:45, we will start our next session. Okay, so I'll continue with the same meeting. After 5 minutes, we'll start with next session.
Can I leave the group?
Yes, ma'am. Yes. Thank you, ma'am.